Hooray! We're going live. It's Facebook. It is also on Skype, and we're going to upload to YouTube. Caroline Stevens, Seeking the Truth, very shortly. So I am so blessed to know TinkyJojo and Angie New, and we keep in contact behind the scenes, but we just don't crowd each other. And it's like, wow, Angie and Jojo, you have been so busy, as I have, and we are out seeking the truth and sharing the word well, you're in the north, I'm in the south. Girls, what have you been up to?
Can we just say one thing about Caroline, because I missed you? Yeah. Sweet Caroline.
Da, da, da.
I never feel so good, so good, so good, so good.
I love some of what you're having.
We've missed you.
Oh, I've missed you too, but you've been gagged, haven't you? There's rumours that your social workers have been told not to have anything to do with me, which is really quite funny because there are these vicious rumours around Facebook saying I'm part of MI6, which is completely really weird.
Rubbish, because you're actually named in my court paperwork. That basically, the police were setting up an investigation on like Wake Up UK, you. 12th of December protest. There was a few names mentioned in it. I had to I was gagged for a whole year with an immediate arrest warrant attached to a non-molestation order, which is basically like an injunction that allowed me no social services building, no council officers. I wasn't allowed to report on Facebook, do any sort of lives, report in newspapers. Loads and loads of restrictions added to it in black capital letters in court paperwork, which is blatantly a load of fraud. Anyway.
I was just putting my camera on, that was all.
Yeah, well, we all know it's fraud anyway. We all know the legislation's fraud.
I'm here. Bright blue scarf at the ready. Sorry, I forgot my camera on Skype. So yes, it just shows. In the recent times, I've been banned from Facebook every week. So how can I be working for MI6 if I'm banned from social media? That does not make sense. Anybody who has made a name for themselves and is continually being shown on Facebook, you have to say they're the ones that must be working for MI6, not me.
Well, you were mentioned in my court paperwork, and for them to say they're setting up an investigation on us all anyway, I've got the court paperwork that states that they've got an investigation set up on all those truth tellers, because they're calling us what? Far right. Well, if we're right, we are right. We don't want the rape of children, and we don't want our children being abused, and we want to live peacefully, and we want to live by God's law.
Being moral.
Yeah, right and wrong, common sense.
Really. It's about common sense and what's right and wrong, and it's clearly not happening in the United Kingdom at any level.
Yeah,
for anybody.
It's like you look around and you wonder how half of these people even got jobs. How are they even qualified? Because they're not qualified.
And then the more you dig in the spider's web, the bigger the web gets, and the more deeper you get, and the more things you find, and then you realise the system just isn't actually working for anybody at any level. Do you know what I mean? So if you've got a perpetrator, a victim, and nobody's getting remedies and nobody's getting listened to, it's letting the perpetrator to continue to perpetrate against somebody, and it's letting the victim to continue to be victimised by somebody as well. So if things aren't working, the whole country is just going to fall like it is to a halt.
Well, it's interesting because I did 2 videos this afternoon, and for the benefit of people on Facebook who can't see you at the moment, although they will see you on my YouTube channel. I've done 2 videos this afternoon, and one of them has been about the UN, the United Nations Agenda 2021, Agenda 2030. And, you know, whilst everybody seems to be fixated on the 31st of October, and it's not about Halloween, it's about leaving the EU. What people just don't realise is that we are intertwined with the United Nations, and the United Nations is behind the EU, is behind our puppet government. So in actual fact, all our councils, like Liverpool, they are taking their orders, not necessarily so much from Parliament, but they're taking it from the United Nations.
Yeah, and this is why we're not getting any remedies, because they want the people to be in these distraught manners, and they know exactly what they're doing to the people because they've researched it for that long length of time, that they know exactly what they're doing. If they deprive us from food, you know, they've contaminated our food by making us go into these big multinational shops. So you can't just go to like a local vet, you know. You tell me where your little veg shop is now these days, where you can just get, say, 3 apples, a handful of, tangerines, a little bit of grapes, 6 strawberries, a bit of half a cucumber. You can't do that these days. You have to buy a few apples, or, you know, but you don't know what they've been sprayed in. Do you know what I mean? So at every level they're at us, and then you've got them at us with the water. 5G coming at our brain cells.
Raping children.
Abuse.
Well, I tell you something, right? I've been looking at this book, and it's We Want Real Food, and it's a book by Graham Harvey, and he writes for the Archers. Now, Graham Harvey has explained really, really well, and he's copyrighted this book, but he basically explains how for decades our farmers have been putting chemicals on the soil. So they've been putting chemicals on our soil to improve production. But in actual fact, what it's done is contaminate our food. Well, so we've seen the increase in cancers, for goodness sake.
If you research at the minute, the Bahamas and Barbados, you want to see the amount of pesticides that they're putting all over the food that's being flowed. This was on RT News even just yesterday. So they've got people spraying the food, or they've got machinery spraying the food. Now, when the people are spraying the stuff, they're all, closed up, so none of the skin's showing. So if it's that bad, it's got to be that bad if people are clothed up while they're spraying your food with stuff. So if you even look into it now, it's going on today, 2019, do you know what I mean? It's been going on for decades.
Yeah, and what the government are like making out to the people is that, oh, it's so good for you because we're putting them chemicals in to make this. And it's not. It's a complete opposite way round. They're trying to kill us. They're literally trying to send in an EU army on the 31st of March. So that comes attached with, if we're on the street with a megaphone, I think it's after 12 o'clock, we're going to jail for 15 years because we're not allowed to have megaphones when we've actually left the EU. You know, who wants to do a deal with the EU when we've left? You know, who wants to do a deal with someone who we're leaving? And as far as I'm concerned, the EU want one deal and one deal only. So if Boris Johnson does that deal, then you know that it's the deal that they've refused in the House of Commons 3 times by Theresa May because it's a bad deal.
Absolutely. You know, there's hardly any difference between Boris Johnson's deal and Theresa May's deal. And, you know, you talked about the EU army, and I find it really interesting because there are sort of disinformation agents on Facebook who are saying, oh, it's just been announced. No, it's not just been announced. You know, Angie, and you know, Jojo, that I covered this 2 years ago, and I actually launched a campaign. I called it the Pesco Gate campaign after the Pizzagate campaign. And we wrote, myself and my team wrote to virtually every MP about this. So there is, you know, the fact that we're now talking about it 2 years on is just crazy.
And like, if you remember rightly though, when it was Pesco, because we all kicked up a fuss, because we were all working with you at that point, I remember, and we all kicked up a fuss, and he changed it to a different name, didn't he?
We changed it for what? Sorry, Angie.
He changed because we all found out about Pesco and we went mad. they changed the name of it to something else, didn't they? Because we all found out they tried changing the name to say, oh no, this is a different thing, but it's the same thing. Like the Lisbon Treaty, like they're trying to, like Boris Johnson's trying to do this deal.
At the
The
end
deal
of the
ain't going to
day,
get done because they only want one their deal, and that's it. They're
the
agenda.
governments are trying to take over the world, and they're trying to just bring out, you know,
Lie after lie.
any angle, whether it's, you know, colour versus colour, religion versus religion, rich versus poor. There's none of that, right? There's just a minority of them, and it's just us against them, and that's what people need to really realise. Doesn't matter what level you're at in life, it's us against them. They're screwing every single one of us over by, you know, when they brought out in 1914, instead of running under the common law, they didn't. They changed the system because they knew what they were doing, because they wanted the World War at that point anyway, to make the people be in distress, you know, so they couldn't fight back because they were in the middle of fighting a war. So behind the backs, obviously the government were changing things, but the people didn't have time to question half of it, because then
they were in a full-blown war.
They were in a war. How are you going to fight, you know?
And then how can they question it when they're dead? They got rid of them people, you know.
The ones that would have questioned it have been blown out the water, because they know the ones, because they're the ones in the front line.
Exactly, like
killed.
us.
And that's across the world, not just for us, it's for everyone, because don't forget, it affected the whole world, not just one nation. It was everywhere.
It was a world war.
And there was that many people that were killed through the First World War. It was absolutely unbelievable. The research I've done into it, it's absolutely astronomical.
And they wanted to drive war and poverty and disease, you know, them three things. And that's how they make their money.
Yeah.
You know, so we all have to get off medications and drain them dry. You know, there's nothing wrong with any single one of you. The government has done this to you. You know, once you start realising where the problem's coming from, then you might be able to start sorting the problem. Yeah. You know, go out and take walks.
Do you know what I'm finding, right? That all these people who are talking about things like 5G, military unification, do you know, these sort of topics were being covered 10 years ago. And even like being microchipped, it was covered like 18 years ago. So all these people talking about it now, it's a little bit late, really, isn't it? So, you know, you have to ask yourself, why are they talking about it now? Because they're talking about Brexit, which is a no word anyway, and they're talking about leaving the EU. But in actual fact, behind the EU, it's like a facade, and it's like there is this screen here, and behind it is the United Nations. So this is the EU, but actually the puppet master behind the EU is actually the UN. So I've just been uncovering the fact that all our councils report directly to the United Nations. So what's the point of talking about the EU? And it's like, I say to people on Facebook all the time, will you please stop sending me information about Boris Johnson, Jeremy Corbyn, Diane Abbott, Joe Swinson? They are little puppets. And people just, yeah, Caroline, I understand it. But then they send me the stuff.
Puppets at the bottom, it's the ones at the top. Now, in France, on RT News this morning, it said face recognition's coming in France. So you can already see what they're trying to do to us. Then it also said in San Francisco, we're going to have the robot cars are going to start. So they're already taking away your identity and who you are, because apparently it's going to stop, you know, crashes on the road, because, you know, us humans couldn't possibly drive a cars like we have done for the last however many years.
Yeah.
So it's all about control and steering you in and lulling you down. And then it had about the protesters in Hong Kong that the government was saying that they're not allowed to hide the faces. Well, they all went back in this morning and they all still have the faces covered. So now obviously their government's going to come down on them. But, you know, whatever's going on in Hong Kong, this is just what's going to come to our country, because the way it's going, obviously, you know, you go to report a crime to the police, they don't look into it. You go through social services, they don't protect children. You go through the family courts, they leave children with abusers, they don't protect the children. You go through the magistrates, well, in fact, some of the magistrates' courts are a bit more fairer then, you know, but even then they can still push you through because they're not listening to what's actually going on in a situation. You know, I'm sure majority of the situations they do, but
there's just no common sense.
There's nobody putting the loops together and bringing it all together. It's like they're all in the, you know, like a tree. If you look at a tree has, you know, a trunk and it has big roots, doesn't it? So if you think of our body as like a tree root, and then at the top it's all like this, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So, you know, the bigger the tree, the more the fuzzy's going on. So you think these people are in, you know, these jobs that don't live in the real world. They live in a completely different planet. They're not like struggling, you know, say, I don't know, they've only got £5 to last them. It's a Sunday night till they get paid on a Monday, and they've only got eggs and beans in the cupboard and a loaf of bread. You get me? These people, you know, they wouldn't know what not having food or not having heating is, or trying to fight a system, and you know, they just throw money at a situation, and even if they are in the wrong, they still get off with it.
They don't even throw money at a situation anymore. They say to you, you can have a £300 loan, you can't have that till you pay it back, but you've got a year to pay it, and then they charge you 40% interest. This is on universal credit. It's higher than a credit card loan.
Do you know what's really funny about the bank lending? When Archbishop Welby took over, he presided over a system where within the church funds, they were investing in Wonga.com. Now, Wonga were charging like something like 1,000% per year. Now, obviously, it's like, so if you borrowed £1 at the beginning of the year, you'd have to pay £1,000 at the end of the year for £1.
Really?
And you've got Welby, and I know it's supposed to be a 28-day loan. So, but if you'd averaged it out over a year, that's exactly what you'd have to pay back. So you've got people who are supposed to be Christians, like Welby, presiding over all this money. Well, it's fake money, isn't it? And, you know, he's come from the City of London, which is the most corrupt area in the world. So he's come from oil and gas industry to the finance industry, then to the church. It doesn't really set the church in a good light, does it? And then people wonder why nobody wants to go to church anymore, because they're such hypocrites.
I mean, well, I've always thought to myself, you know, well, like the government, when I was little, used to say that, you know, they owed this money or this, that, and the other. Why don't they just print some more? Do you get me?
Well, they keep printing it. They keep printing it, but they keep lending out money which they don't have.
Exactly. You know.
And it really frustrates me because I see so many people on Facebook. They're looking for a messiah. They really are looking for somebody who's going to save the day. And I have to say, there is nobody in the political arena that is going to save their bacon, because you've got the politicians who are paid. They are all paid to deliver a certain agenda. They have script writers. They don't realize, if they've never been closely connected with any political party, they don't understand that the leaders, like, for example, Nigel Farage, has a script writer. So he is told what to say.
Yeah.
So it's really, those people aren't listening to us. They're not going to listen to us. They've never have in the past. So why should it be different now?
Yeah, it's not coming from the heart, is it? They're being told what to write and what to say, and they're not there for the people, because they're not listening to the people, because they've never listened to the people for decades and decades and decades. From even the Second World War, the people have been put down. And, you know, I mean, they were on rations until the 50s, weren't they? When Europe wasn't on rations, they were living quite well, but yet we were. Do you know what I mean? We should have farmers full of, you know, vegetation and fruit. We should have fruit trees lined up down our streets, where if you wanted an apple or you wanted a pear or a lemon, the trees should be planted. You know what I mean? But we're not. We're in a horrible society where everything's concreted, and you're charged for you know, for some tomatoes. Everyone should have greenery outside where they're growing stuff, you know. So we are a bit more self-sufficient, but they haven't done that to us. Instead, they've took away our gift from God, or whoever you want to call your creator, you know, and put a price on it. What gave them the right to put a price on everything? Fair enough, the farmers, because they're working for it and they've got to keep the go of the animals and everything else in. But what's right has the government got to do all what they've done to us, you know? And
it's interesting you say that, because of course the likes of 5G, places like Sheffield have had so many trees cut down because it interferes with the rays.
Yeah.
The phased arrays. And, you know, I was reading up about Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 today, and I did a video on it. And it's a case of the two major points are getting all of us to live in cities. Well, I mean, I'm a sort of a townie. I'm not a city person. I'm not really a rural person. I like to have the best of both worlds. So I like to be able to travel a mile out of where I live, and I like to see green fields, and I like to go to the farm shop. But, you know, I also like to be able to be a town, you know, a mile in, and be able to catch the train to a major town in 10 minutes and have all the nice shops. So I really want the best of both worlds, nice schools, etc., etc. And the UN, you know, the agenda is not giving us the choice. It basically by 2021 wants us all in cities, which I guess is like Liverpool and so on, and that doesn't suit me at all.
No, you won't be able to get a top from your local town. You'll have to go into a city. Now, obviously, I'm from like out as the same type of person as you, Caroline. I'm not in a city, but I'm in a town, and I like it like that. I'm not in the outskirts, but it's there. Now, obviously, since this last year, we've done loads of travelling, going through Manchester, Birmingham, London, and I mean, London is a hellhole. I'm sorry, it's an absolute.
It is. I would hate to live there.
I mean, right, you've got the.
So is Manchester. To be fair, you get off and it's just like, wow.
Oh my God, I was in Manchester on Monday. Did you hear? I was at the Tory Party conference. I was like really upsetting the MPs and asking them lots of really difficult questions. But Manchester was like, you know, on Monday, it's probably, everybody knows that Manchester is always rainy, but it was really rainy on Monday. But, you know, there's so many places. So you go into Manchester and you say to people, excuse me, can you tell me where this is? No. And it's that blank expression. And you can ask 10 people, and it's so big a place that nobody knows where you want to be.
We got lost, and we must have asked so many people for some help.
Yeah.
In the end,
no one
Angie had to
English.
get a megaphone out. She got a megaphone out and went, "Will someone please
help us?" You know, where's the bus stop? Does anyone speak English?
Or which direction are you going in?
The towns, they're full of student, you know, student high rises. Do you know what I mean?
Block after block after block after block.
So you've got to look at as well. People will pay for the children to come over here to be educated, but there's block after block after block, and it's like they just want to cram as many people and as many people as they can in
because they own the block
into one space. And you know, I feel sorry for the people being squashed into that. You know, but it's on a mass scale. This isn't just like a few little blocks going up. This is boom, boom, boom. We're coming. 19 4 floors foot high. Do you know what I mean? Oh, student accommodation. Do you know what I mean? But then we're not seeing the kids from the towns going into any of these places. So who's actually going in them? Do you know what I mean? And then you've got to look at the loop-to-loop through the universities. You've had the scandals with the babies at Alder Hey.
Yeah.
You know, the body parts. There's been loads of scandals lately about hospitals not getting rid of, you know, say people have had the leg amputated and stuff like that. You know, there's a mass build-up of body parts from, you know, our hospitals in England. You know, they've not got rid of the parts properly. Do you know what I mean?
What about all the babies' bodies that they find and digging up all underneath the back and You know, there's ones in Scotland, the Aberdeen baby Asher scandal, Ireland, Toonarm. They've found 400 bodies there in one tomb. You know, and everyone thinks it's okay to just be like, oh, we've just found 400 babies dead. Nothing to happen again.
It's a BBC documentary I watched, and it's something like Islands Cults. It's on YouTube, and it was an hour long, and there was 800 babies, you know, just, you know, dead. And obviously the people are trying to still get an investigation going on, and they want them to dig up this part because it's all been like the places.
Because there's more babies.
Well, 800 are now, you know, so what has been going on through society?
We all know what's been going on. There've been child trafficking children. They've been using children's homes and social services as children's brothels. And they've been participating in raping and murdering children in positions of power. And then we've got the government who's above their head, which has allowed that position of power and changed legislation like Jack Straw in 2009 to say that children can't report child abuse and care. Was that what Harriet Harman tried getting the age of consent lowered to 4? Because it was around that same time. Dealing with paedophiles, and Harriet Harman is still in. And just tried to be the Speaker of the Houses of Parliament.
Yeah,
what's going on?
When this Speaker fella goes, she wants to be the Speaker lady. You know, when he goes, oh yeah.
Over my dead body is Harriet Harman going to be the Speaker of the House of Commons after she's a woman, and she's tried to lower the age of consent for an adult to sleep with the children at 4 years old. What woman in the right mind would lower the age of consent? Who would do that?
Well, look at one of the Privy Councillors. Now, I won't mention his name for fear of being sued, but there's one Privy Councillor. So the Privy Councillors are the people who advise the Queen, and they are the most important parliament, if you like. So you've got one guy who has been accused of chopping up body parts and throwing them in a river. So we now live in a society where we have a fake queen. We have her son, Prince Andrew, who has been accused of underage sex in the USA, and he has got to go to America to face those allegations. We have Privy Councillors, like you mentioned, Harriet Harman, who want underage sex, you know, happy for underage sex. You've got another guy who's got body parts thrown in the river. You've got Ted Heath, who MPs like James Gray in Wiltshire, who will defend to the hilt, and that the police crime commissioner of Wiltshire is castigated and thrown to the lions, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And you have got the total topsy-turvy, you know, world we're living in. And, you know, Australia, Canada, USA are watching this show, and these people are thinking, what is going on in the UK? Because we thought you were great people.
We need help. We're going to the people. We're going to governments, and we're crying out. Our children are being raped and abused. They're ignoring us because
the government are doing it. That's the thing. I mean, what was it? 164 MPs accused of being on the sex offenders register in 2016. What, you can't go to the offenders, can you? That's the problem we've got. We're occupied by the bad guys.
We need Mr. Trump, we need Donald Trump, we need them to come over and rescue us, because the people are actually genuinely trying. And like me, I've been silenced. I could go to jail for speaking the truth, for speaking what they're doing to children. You know, I'll never shut my mouth when they're committing crimes against children. You know, never, ever. You know, you can gag me all they want. They can put this on me, that on me, whatever. I'll still open my mouth and I'll still tell them straight that they're not raping any more children over my dead body. And we're going down there on the 31st because Brexit is literally crunch time. If Boris Johnson does that deal, we know that the deal that he's going to do is the only deal that they want, you know. Yeah. One deal and one deal only.
No deal, no more money getting sent over. We're self-sustaining country.
We can do it.
Whoever's here now stays here. But if you're demons, you go. You
And
go.
we can get rid
If
of
it's
all
our
this
demons,
paedophilia.
if they're locked up, that's it. That's how it should work. We get a proper board around, so we're knowing what's going on properly. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, we can't afford to look after the people we've got.
Come on. Our government's
You've got
paying out.
homelessness at every single town across England. It's not just in one town, it's across the whole of England. This is a mass problem. How can we have, you know, homeless people and more people coming in when we can't even sort out our own homeless?
Our governments are paying other countries money when our children are today missing, and they're refusing under their legislation, which is fraud, to go out and find them because it takes over 16.5 hours of taxpayers' money. I think the British people deserve it to the children to pay for this inquiry today to find out where the children are. We want to know where our children are. I know where mine are, but I've got people out there that are linked to me that don't know where their children are. They don't even know if they're alive or dead, Caroline. We've heard the stories where they're not vetting these fucking foster carers and adopters properly. So they're going out and giving them paedophiles. Then they're raping the children and they're murdering them. And we haven't got a clue. We can't go and ask them questions. Where's my kid? They go, oh, go away. Your kid's been adopted. You're not allowed to know. Well, we want to know. We want to know if our kid's alive because we've heard rumours that you've killed them. You know?
I tell you something. I used to work for extended schools. I was doing contract work and I met kids who had been excluded from school who were in foster care, whether it would be with foster parents or in a foster home. And I turned up at a foster home, a foster carers place, because the library was closed on the Wednesday afternoon. You know, where I live, Wednesday afternoons, the library's closed at 1 o'clock, and I was supposed to do some tutoring. So I went to the house and I just thought, my God, this is like in the middle of winter. It was 0 degrees outside and the temperature in the house was probably no warmer than outside. And the girl was living in a t-shirt and shorts. And basically I reported it. And what happens then is the fact that you don't get any more work. They don't go and investigate what's actually happened, how this has come about. But the whistleblower always cops for it. Yes. You don't get any work. If you were the breadwinner, you are messed up.
Yeah, it's always the way, Caroline. It's always the ones that speaking out the truth and tell the story. And it's always, they don't want to get caught. So they want to silence us and lock us up and put us in mental institutions. It's a bit like Melanie Shaw. Like Carl.
And then what they do in the council is like, say, like they'll have one of them that, you know, was bred to go into it anyway, who they chose.
Yeah, like
they'll have them at one place, say, like the head of children's social care, and then the next minute they'll be head of the council. Do you know what I mean? So they all say in the loop-to-loop. Because when that part's failing, they'll move them then to somewhere else just before it sinks. Do you get me? So they don't get the full-on blame.
And
then they'll keep them in the job still. Do you know what I mean?
Like a little example.
But then even move them higher than what they were in the first place to make that bit crumble, because they'd already made that part crumble. Do you know what I mean? It's like a little spider's web. We'll move you from here to there, to there, to there. And then when you're not there, we'll take you down to London, so no one knows what you're doing. Like the MPs, you don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You've all seen for a year, I've been mithering my MP for 2 years. What's he done? He's not even responded.
He's not even said hello.
He hasn't even, for the shame of me live streaming him, even got you'd get in contact to be. If I was live streamed and I was an MP, I'd feel shamed.
Yeah,
you know, I'd feel ashamed.
I'd feel ashamed of myself at running councils like that. I mean, abusing children.
When I sent him the letter in February, the MP, I clearly stated what his job role was for him, and he still clearly chose to dismiss what his actual job role is. Do you know what I mean? I wrote it down word for word for him.
These people aren't qualified.
Oh, but then again, they can pick and choose who they speak to and who they can't. So is it a case of me face didn't fit?
I think it's funny actually, because when I was at the Tory party conference, this guy walked past. I said, I know you. I don't know who you are, but I know you. And he said, I know you. And it turned out to be Steve Baker. So I'd never actually met him. And obviously he's hit the headlines this week. He was involved in the military unification. And I just thought, wow, how do the governments choose these MPs? Most of these MPs must be in the palm of their hand. They must have so much stuff on these people. Otherwise, why would they behave in the way that they behave?
Handpicked Freemasons. They're all in the Freemasons.
Absolutely. Illuminati, Freemasons, you know, all these like tools in their apron. I mean, to be honest, most pertains to the males. And it's like it's a real disappointment for us women because we are brought up to think this guy is going to come along on a white horse, he's going to save the women and he's going to protect us. And it seems to me that, you know, X years on, it's us women that are protecting. We're the ones that are going out there.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on?
And do you know what really gets me is where's, you know, like years ago, if someone heard that somebody had hurt a child, right, the whole of, you know, that town will be up in arms. Now it's like a daily occurrence. A child's been raped, a child's been battered.
No one's bothered.
You know, no one cares because they took away like the home economics from the school and the kids. Now, after some of these, I'm not saying all parents, but you know, there's a lot of kids now getting abused because these kids that have been brought up in society over the last 10, 15 years haven't been taught proper life skills, how to look after a child, how to keep a house right.
Unless you've got parents.
Unless you've got good parents around you, which if they're breaking up society, they're going to create a mass chain, aren't they? If they're taking children from families because the families weren't taught right in the first place, do you know what I mean? Then that's going to create more of a chain because they're going to be distressed because they're not living with the families.
And then,
do you know, when I was growing up, I went to college and did a Chinese cookery course, and now those sort of courses, they don't happen anymore at colleges. All they're focused on is getting people who don't speak English to speaking English. They shouldn't even be coming into this country until they can speak English because they cannot assimilate. I mean, this bright blue, Angie, that I've been talking about, this bright blue Scotland has just produced a report about neighbourhoods. They cannot possibly come into this country and assimilate with the general population if they do not speak any English.
Yeah.
How can they work here? How can they associate with us if they can't speak our language?
Must be paying a lot of interpreters, let's put it that way. I'd love a freedom of information how many interpreters we've got in this country.
How many have we got then, Angie?
I haven't got a clue. It's one thing I haven't Googled, but I'd love to know.
And who's paying for them? We are, well, the people who are taxpayers are paying for it. And, you know, so when they say, you know, in the government say, oh, it's great, it's diversity, it's, you know, our country is has enriched and everything. But hang on, how much we pay? We're paying for their interpreters, we're paying for their healthcare services, we're paying for this, that. I mean, some guy from Bolton had posted on Facebook 2 days ago pictures of a house which had been taken over by people coming into the country. And these people coming in, they're not necessarily asylum seekers, they're just people coming in. So they are given everything they want. But yeah, I go out, maybe you go out as well, but I go out to Bath and places like that. And I go and get food from the supermarket. I've been out tonight and I go and give the food out. And everybody that I give food to is white. They were born here. So why is it so wrong to question feeding the homeless, and they are 100% white and indigenous, and we are bringing in people who are given these nice houses with everything they want? It's not right. Surely it's not right.
Confusion on this one, Caroline, because obviously I've been up and down London and I've looked with my own eyes and I've seen what's going on, and I've seen them building block after block after block right next to each other and throwing students in these accommodations. Now these students are from different countries, so So our government's saying to them, oh, you come over here and we'll give you £40 a week and we'll give you a flat and we'll give you a free NHS and free doctors and this, that, the other. Who's going to refuse that? No one. So they're coming over here. They're literally begging them to come over, giving them everything. Now, they're going to go on housing benefit because they haven't got a job, so they're going to get benefits. So then they're going to move into that tower block, and their landlord, which is the government, is going to want paying. So then they're going to take that £500 a month, let's say, and they're going to get that off the taxpayer because they're on benefits. So that money is literally going back to them. This is how they're basically building the tower block, filling them up with, and getting the rent off it. Block after block after block after block after block, the billionaires.
Well, I was in Marks and Spencer's food hall. I was just passing through in Cardiff a few weeks ago, and people who were not from here were buying up trolleys full of food. Now, I don't think there's many people, sort of middle class or below, that can afford to do their entire shopping at Marks and Spencer's. They don't. They go to other places. But these people were filling their trolleys up as if the money was like, it was just, it was coming out of their ears. And I'm thinking, how do they manage it?
That's what I mean. What they live like to us, like Esther McVeigh and her Universal Credit, you know, and she tried. How has she not gone yet? How has she not gone? You know, she's already tried destroying the public, and now she wants to step up as well. Oh, she's Home Secretary, isn't she, or something like that?
Oh, God, see how they go round,
they go round and round and round.
I mean, and then what makes me laugh is they've been in one section. How can you go from one section, which could become something completely different, to say the Chancellor of the Exchequer when you've been over, say, childcare or
the dumber the better. The dumber the better. You've got a situation. Well, I mean, for example, Liz Truss was head of education, and she's never been a teacher. You find the civil service, they're presiding over the education system, and none of those people have ever been teachers. So this is what we're faced with.
I went to school, right, and I come out with no qualifications. And to be honest with you, I think back now and I think, what a waste of, you know, so many years getting taught all that, you know, to come out with nothing, you know. But it was so
now
wrong.
You can see it was designed for you to come out with
nothing.
It was designed that way for certain areas and certain people. That's what they wanted you to do.
Because I went to
but it's got worse now, because if you look at the UN Agenda 21, what they're trying to, and the neighbourhood, the distant neighbours plan, what they want to do is basically dumb down the population. They basically want the white indigenous population to come out with nothing, but they want to upskill people who've just come into the country. So they want to direct all their resources to people who don't speak English, etc., etc. So we are disadvantaged in our own country.
Yeah.
And that's not right. You know, our parents have paid for this.
The news yesterday, it was saying about that at Eton, at certain university levels, there's been a bit of an outbreak because they're teaching kids at different levels, when it should all just be a one set thing, depending on, you know, whereabouts you are in life.
You see, they've been funding people with no English. You know, there are some primary schools and secondary schools that maybe have to teach or speak to children with 50 different languages.
Well, exactly. How can you communicate with that many?
You can't, can you? And you, as a teacher, are judged on your performance, but yet it's like having both hands tied behind your back, because you're not preaching to people that even speak your language.
But at the minute, they're not even teaching the kids how to read and write properly coming out of primary school.
Do the ABC, the 1, 2, 3, handwriting.
You know, the handwriting, they're not teaching them how to read, they're not getting them, you know, the brain.
You know, just the general things that you need in life. You know, they're taking swimming away. That's a life skill. If they ever drown in the water, they need to swim. You know, they're taking things away from the kids. They're taking the parks away from them, taking community centres away from
And
them.
do you know why
they're hammering the kids. And then the old people, I'm noticing around my area, because my area is quite bad around my area. The kids are, you know, they're lovely kids. You can't knock them. But, you know, once someone says something to them, they start and that. And the kids around my area, I forgot the point I was trying to make. What was I saying then? Oh, never mind. I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, to be honest, I'm so surprised that the kids are as normal as they are, because let's be honest, the kids get filled with food that has lots of GMOs in them. They have social media, etc., which makes them feel like, incapable, incapacitated in some way. They have mental health issues. And then they're expected to go to school. Their parents are both probably working these days. And so they have no social structure necessarily. So I think it's quite amazing that so many kids are still sort of in one piece, if you like, because I just don't know how it happens.
Sorry, that's what I was going to say before. The old people around mine say, oh, the little bastards. Do you know what I mean? But they're looking at them, and when I'm on the streets with the kids don't care. The state's bringing up these kids, the kids that have got mothers, that have got, like that look after the kids and that. They're not half as bad as these kids that are being left on the street by social services. They think it's all right to throw $2,000 at a kid at 16 years old, to go and sort your life out and see you later. They think that's acceptable, just to leave them at 16 years old because they don't get no money for them no more. It's not acceptable. This is wrong. If they can't look after our children, then give our children back and we'll do the job, because we can do the job. They can't. They're blaming us, saying we're going to cause them significant harm in the future. They've caused nothing but significant harm to my child since the day they've had my children. They're blaming us, saying that we're liars. We're not liars. They're liars. Everything's reversed. The children are coming to me saying they're getting raped in care. They're saying, oh, we've got the allegations. Oh, see you later. There's nothing we can do. The police haven't took it forward.
But if you speak to kids, they're so indoctrinated now. If you speak to kids today of 16, 18, they think you're being racist because you're saying, well, I want to put you first. Can you believe this? I want to put you first before people coming into this country. And they say, oh, you're being racist. I'm thinking, what do you mean? I want to put you first because you come from this country. What is so wrong with coming from this country? And I don't know, you wouldn't meet those sort of kids anywhere else in the world. You go to Africa, you go to Asia, and you say, I'm going to put you first because you're from this country. They would say, yeah, that's fair enough. But what we've got now is we've signed all these treaties and agreements and got media. Yeah.
We're fighting our own government because it's our government that's done this to our children. We're not fighting any sort of religion. We're fighting our government because they've got the power in the legislation. They put the legislation in there, and nothing could have been done. The police can't ignore crimes without their permission. So it's them that's done it.
Yeah.
We're not going to war with other people. We're going to war with our government for what they've done to our children. And what they're doing to our adults and our veterans, and there's a lot of problems.
You look at mental institutions; they were only closed down, not that long ago, in the 50s, 60s. So look at what they were doing to the people that were in mental institutions. They weren't even allowed out in society. They were getting tortured behind the scenes. So people, because they've stopped people looking at history. Obviously, like Oliver Cromwell, look what he did with the king.
Well, he was a bad egg, actually. Do you know what they've done is rewrite history and make bad people be good. And it's like Winston Churchill. He was a bad egg, and he was collaborating with the other sides. That's the reason why so many churches weren't touched. And they used to wheel him out of London on a night when he knew they were going to bomb London. He was wheeled out of London. I mean, I never knew this until a couple of months ago. Somebody I interviewed, and he said they wheeled him out, and then they bombed London, and then he was wheeled back in the following morning. And he said, "Oh, I've stood with you all, people." And it's like, no, he hadn't. He'd been somewhere else. And this is what I'm saying. We're so full of people coming around with disinformation, and it's hard for us to be able to analyze what's really going on.
Well, of Oliver Cromwell, that he went to the king and said, like, if you don't govern your people right, we're going to come in and basically take you out. And they gave him the benefit of the doubt, and then he didn't, govern the people well. So he went in and chopped their heads off. It's simple, isn't it?
Oliver Cromwell, though, brought the bankers in, and they were the bad people. So basically, that's what we've got. The problem today is, shall I tell you something? Epstein, right? So one of his best friends was a guy called James Staley, and he is the current chief executive of Barclays Bank. Now, that's my bank. I bank there. So my bank dealings are effectively with a paedophile sympathizer. How do I feel? I mean, the thing is, if you move your bank accounts, it's not so easy, is it? There aren't that many banks, and then they want to ask for evidence when you go to another bank. They want you to do statements and all that malarkey.
It's a nightmare. I'm just saying everything you need to join a bank.
Yeah, absolutely. So they say, why do you want to move? Well, because the chief executive of my last bank seemingly supports a paedophile. And it's like, what we should be doing, that, to be honest, if we want to kick the bankers out of the UK, I just don't understand why people haven't cottoned on to not going on the yellow vest marches, which don't achieve any. I can't see they've achieved anything so far. Why don't we stand outside Barclays Bank branches with little placards saying the chief executive is best friends with a paedophile, right? Yeah. And that must surely make people think, oh, I don't really want to bank with them. I've gone into my local Barclays Bank branch and said, why do I want to be here? Why do I want to bank with you when your chief executive has been on Epstein's Island, he's been on Epstein's yacht?
God, I'm not with Barclays. Hallelujah.
And they think, what? They don't know anything about Epstein at all.
Wow.
This is the thing.
This is
things are just
getting naughty, isn't it?
Like the International Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse, they're live at the minute on YouTube, they're going off, and, guess what? No one knows about it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's all about our government covering it all up, but no one knows apart from a handful.
We're saying about the rape of children in care homes. They've got the inquiry on YouTube live, they're all getting questions. And there's hundreds and hundreds of videos. It's been going on for about 2 years. Yet there's only like 57 views on it. So if anybody would like to go and have a little look, the reference is IICSA, and it's the International
Inquiry.
It's International Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse, and it's our UK government's inquiry. I've been looking into the Nottingham Children's Home now.
So are you going to put, can you put any website links on this live stream?
Don't know how to do it, love.
Possibly. We'll have a little go. But basically, Melanie Shaw, when she actually stood up, it was in one of the videos that she actually spoke out. So it was her words. And she said something like, Rigby turned around and said that I can get him when he's dead. When she was basically getting attempted to be murdered and strangled, the person that tried murdering her confessed that the boss of the home give him 2 to 3 children a week to rape, right? So anyway, this Rigby was the boss. So I was thinking, hang on, where's Rigby? So I went through the inquiry on the ICSA on YouTube, only on day 7, AM1, Kenneth Rigby, right? So according to Melanie Shaw, he's a potential murderer and paedophile and rapist and abuser, and he's living in Australia. He's hidden in Australia. He's got his own university, and somehow he's got allegations against him in this inquiry, and somehow he's got a book out and he's written a book on bullying in children's homes, making out that he's a good citizen and all this lot. So he's actually hiding in Australia at the minute. So he's off the British soil. So, but nobody, like, if Melanie Shaw was to come out of Brampton, the hospital, and she was basically to give us her confession, it's on witness tapes, it's on YouTube, it's there. You know, anyone can go to the link, you know, watch her videos. She says it, you know, and I wouldn't have knew that if it weren't for 2000. This is going back in 2015 when she said that. Now in 2019, they brought Kenneth Rigby to the stand. You know, so that's how I've got onto it, because I've gone through, when you go onto the ICSA, it's got a little white screen and it tells you who's in court. You know, so you can go and as like an AM1, AM2, PM1, PM2, because they have so many witnesses throughout the day, like every day through the week. Next week, I think it is, it's live. It was live all last week as well. They've got another inquiry now. So it's like inquiry after inquiry after inquiry going on into the sexual abuse in children's homes. But the one thing that they're not mentioning is the adoptees. They haven't mentioned. They've said that the recommendations is to go out and re-vet the foster carers. Well, what about the adoptees? Because you've got to give them children away. You know, you can't find half of them. You've told the parents that. You know, so where are these children? Because you've got to give, you have to vet people properly. No one's trained. You know, where are these children? Our children are screaming out all over the world for help. And they covered it through legislation to silence us into telling their truth. Because they've got an agenda. They want to be a paedophile. They want to rape a child. And most, like in the Quran, where apparently it says that you can have sex with children under whatever, you know, it's legal to them. So they think that they're not doing that. That's their agenda. So the pedophiles and, you know, the Muslims are now mixing together because they've got the same agenda. If you get what I mean. I'm not saying all Muslims and all white people are like that. You know, I'm not saying that, but I'm noticing.
I think it's truly shocking that we find it acceptable that our MPs, some of whom are involved in paedophile groups and are on the sex offenders register, and that we are not allowed to, you know, they're presiding over us. And I was at the Tory Party conference on Monday, on the fringes, admittedly, because I would never join the Tory Party in a million years. And, you know, to see other Brexiteers brown nosing around. I mean, I know I had my picture taken with Steve Baker, but generally speaking, I didn't really have anything to do with them apart from give them a really hard time. And I just think it's quite, you know, really, I think they're quite disgusting, because they don't have a moral compass in any shape or form. Yeah. They're presiding over us, you know, so we would expect better of them, surely.
Well, you know, how can you expect anything less of someone that's not doing the job? I think we need them out, Caroline. We need to take them out. We
do need them out, but you know what I see is that fact, you know, the Bright Blue Scotland are saying we need to get rid of the House of Lords in its present format. And basically the Lisbon Treaty takes the Houses of Parliament down. So you have all these people, clever people on Facebook saying, oh, well, what happens if we should have a general election? What difference? Goodness me, after all these years, what difference would a general election make? These people, the whole parliament needs to go and be filled with righteous people.
We need the building. That's what we need. We need that building. We need a good team in there. We need at least 200 or 300 people of us outside the door on the 31st to take over who's in that building. However many people are in that building, we need on that door, and we need to go through and say, get your stuff and get out. We've found you guilty of treason, because that's what they've committed. They've committed treason. They've raped and murdered.
Every single one of them needs to face allegations of treason. And you get the Brexiteers saying, oh, the Brexit MPs, they're fine. No, they're not. We should not have even been in the European Union in the first place, because it goes against our constitution. End of. There's no grey areas in this. We cannot be governed by any foreign prince, prelate, or power. That's the end of it. That's our constitution. And also, we cannot have any Talmudic Jews in charge of us. We are supposed to be governed by Christians. End of. Why is that so heinous to say that?
I know.
That's the constitution.
Why are we being silenced? Because now on Facebook, you're not even allowed to mention religion. Your account gets shut down for religion.
And if you Google,
and we talk about God,
if you research services, it all goes back to the time when Jesus was born. 2,000 years ago. I've gone through it all, and I've gone over the last 200 years. It's absolutely shocking what they've done to society. So it all goes back to Jesus, and yet they're trying to take Jesus away. But yet they say that Jesus isn't real. Why does everybody know his name? And why is the book 52 countries? Because if it wasn't real and all this was just utter rubbish, why is there so much, wouldn't it just be like a Cinderella story? Nobody's up in arms about the Cinderella story, are they?
No, he's all powerful. Right, we've been on the air for over an hour, so I'm gonna love you and leave you. It's really good to speak to you. We need to get together again because it's been too long.
Oh yeah.
Get together over the next couple of days.
Yes, absolutely. Angie, are you? I need you to get better in the next couple of days. Is that okay?
Oh, I will. Hey, but just before we go, I think it's very important to teach people about the common law of the land.
Yeah.
And basically, the common law of the land is, right? Say, just for example, you're going down the street and you've took a knife out your drawer to go down and take someone's bed apart, and the police pull you over for a stop and search, and you've got the knife on you. You'd expect them 5 years in jail for carrying an offensive weapon. Just use that as an example. They're going to arrest you. They're going to pull you into the cells. You don't say, when they say to you, we're arresting you under suspicion of blah, 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 you do not have to say anything unless you wish to do so. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Do you understand? Now, most people make the mistake of saying yes. Right? You say no. No, I don't understand, because the common law is you commit no loss, no harm, no injury. You have not committed harm, loss, or injury. That means there's no crime. That means there's no charges. So then they'll take you to the desk sergeants and they'll get you to sign the boxes. They'll ask you again and again. Do you understand? No, I don't understand, because I've got the common law of the land. I don't consent to your contract, because that's you consenting to a contract to arrest you, right? So then they've got no evidence to give to the CPS. So they let you go at the charge desk, right? So, but if you commit loss, harm and injury, obviously you're going to get prosecuted. But if you genuinely done nothing wrong, you can use that. You can use it on a failed brake light. You can use it on a fight that you haven't caused harm or injury. Now, this is just the basic law of the land.
We've just done a documentary, haven't we? So you've got that to watch, Caroline.
What's it called? The
Unity for Children.
Unity for our children.
Yeah.
Document.
Yeah. Well, I watched your little show a couple of days ago, and that music. What was it? Something about tell the children, And it was really, really spooky, I must admit.
It was,
Well,
wasn't
we'd
it?
done a documentary, but while we were filming it, we were actually on the way back on the train. Chris, who had produced it, actually had his feet up on the seat. Now, I was on my phone doing something, and we had Gizmo with us. Anyway, these two enforcers came along the train, and they said, oh, they started to say hello to the dog. Well, obviously, this fella had spotted that the shoes were on the thing. Then he started to ask us for our tickets, which obviously we had tickets. And then he went to say, now that I've seen your feet on the seat with his camera on, I'm now going to have to charge you. And I went,
You didn't put your feet on the seat.
I didn't.
Oh no, that's my worst pet hate.
No, I didn't put him on. The producer of our documentary did.
But he didn't.
Oh really? I think that is really outrageous. I really hate that. That's one of my pet hates. It's a bit like the toilet seat up, isn't it? Well, it's worse than the toilet seat being put up. This is just like, anyway, so, okay.
So anyway, they said to him, now I hadn't noticed, because I would have said like you, get your feet down, you know what I mean? Where do you think you are, sort of thing. But anyway,
absolutely.
So anyway, he goes, I'm going to have to find you. And I went to him and said, oh, you caused no harm, no loss, no injury. I said, you don't have to give him your name. And then the fella started speaking to me. He said, you don't have to speak to me. I'm just giving him advice. I said, you carry on and do what you're doing. And then obviously, as he kept trying to, you know, pull him into the situation, I said, you know, no, you don't have to do that. Anyway, he ended up walking. I said, he's from another town. He doesn't know your contracts. I says, and if I'd have seen that his feet were on the seat, because I am from round here and I do know the rules and regulations, do you know what I mean? I asked him to get him off the seat. I said, but the nice, polite thing for you to would have done was to just say, can you get your feet down, please? We don't allow. Do you know
absolutely.
What I mean? Fine you £60, which would make what is that doing to anybody in society? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, the next thing he went, he said, well, your picture will be circulated because you're on the thing. And I said, yeah, that's okay. See ya, on your way. And off they went. So,
well, my battery's gone on my phone, so I'm going to love you and leave you. Obviously, the battery has been depleted more than what it's been charging as we go along. So, girls, Angie, you take care of yourself.
Yeah, could I just say, everybody add YouTube TR Talk and add See It, Say It, Sort It, Stop It, Child Abuse on YouTube. That's our platform. And there's another one, Families Destroyed by the State. So if anybody would like to add all those platforms, and Unity for Children. So there you go, there's our channels.
And to everybody who's watching, it's a case of I hope to see you in Dewsbury a week today at 1 o'clock. I'm speaking.
Okay, we'll see you then.
All right, bless you. I'll speak to you in the next couple of days.
Bless you. Bye.
Night.
Take care. Have a good night, girls.
Bye.
Bye.